I can't say I'd ever really expected a horror movie with a unicorn in it. I don't know if maybe they've done one on the Sci-Fi Channel that I've missed. You think that maybe there's one or something out there, but not really what I expected. But here we go. So besides just having a unicorn in it, what it's it about? Let's find out with the IMDb plot. A father and daughter accidentally hit and kill a unicorn while en route to a weekend retreat where his billionaire boss seeks to exploit the creature's miraculous curative properties. All right, say that fast 3 times. Yeah, you usually, you might hit a deer, or maybe, if you don't live out in the woods, maybe you hit a raccoon or a possum, something like that. But they managed to hit and kill a unicorn. Pretty interesting there. But yeah, we're gonna go down the unicorn route. So um, early on, you do see the father and daughter there. Obviously, two very familiar faces, Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega. Father and daughter, didn't think I would see those as a father and daughter tandem in a movie, but whatever. Yeah, riding down the road, having a conversation. Obviously, there's something between them. She's not, I guess, totally into this trip, or something, kind of an issue between them, and so forth. But out of nowhere, boom, they hit the unicorn. It's on the floor, and we get a really kind of odd scene here where they're kind of deciding what to do. Obviously, it kind of gets to the point where they want to. He wants to put it out of its misery, which might seem like the right thing to do. Maybe not as shocked by the fact that it's a unicorn, because if I would have hidden a unicorn, I'd be like, what the hell is this? Is this really a unicorn? Is this some other creature? What is happening? How can I profit off of this? Maybe. If you hit Bigfoot, I'm sure you're going to want to figure out how you can profit off that, because that's sure to come. So you have a unicorn, but whatever. I guess that's not as crazy. So anyway, kind of in the workings there, she touches the unicorn's horn, and all of a sudden, kind of gets or in her headspace, kind of taken off into a kind of other realm or something, and kind of goes through all these colors and thoughts and things and so forth, and comes out the other end of it, kind of having this connection now with this unicorn. At the end of it, you're not really sure whether it's dead or not, but they somehow, without them really showing, have thrown it in their car, and now they're on their way to this billionaire's house. They get there, and I think I gathered he's maybe a lawyer or something like that, and they're kind of trying to get the guy's matters and estate kind of in all that kind of stuff together, because he's got some kind of illness, and it looks like he's not going to make it. And of course, he has several of his children and family members there in the house, as well. And a kind of obnoxious, weird group of people here, that are I guess waiting for his death so they can claim whatever they want, and enjoying this really nice house, mansion, whatever you want to call it, that he has in the meantime. And not long after they get there, they realize that there's a little bit of a commotion. First, the girl is not looking great, because she still has a little bit of blood on her, and she's doesn't really want to be there and whatever to begin with. So they're a little off, also suspected her being there to begin with. So that kind of sets things up. But then the car kind of starts making some noise, and what's in the car? Well, of course, the unicorn's in the car. So they go out there, they discover that there's a unicorn there, and before you know it, everybody kind of has their own idea what they want to do with it. But certain staff members come eventually, take the thing, and they want to do experiments on it and whatever. At the end of the day, I didn't really gather whether people they kind of already were just okay with the unicorn, or they kind of knew that unicorns were magical, so they figured they would try something with it, or why they decided to do what they do, but they did anyway. They kind of take the unicorn off to the side and start doing some experiments because they're ready for experiments here in this place and so forth. Experimenting all the time, I guess. Anyway, that kind of goes on, and then he kind of gets questioned to why didn't he let anybody know, what the hell is he doing with the unicorn, and that kind of thing. They run some experiments on the unicorn, see that it has certain powers. They think about giving it to the father here so that he can survive. And then we kind of go down that kind of avenue here of what happens, as that happens. I don't want to go too much further into it and spoil anything for you guys. Again, I don't think I mentioned it at the top, but you guys know it's a newer film here, so I know maybe some of you haven't seen it. So I don't want to go too much down the road of what happens after that. Specifically, maybe a twist and turn here and there. But yeah, definitely an odd setup. I think, even the father and daughter here, they seem a little bit odd, have an odd relationship. They're on an odd situation because, he's there to, really help this billionaire out, and so forth. And then, really isn't really given much of the opportunity to even leave, even if he wanted to, once the craziness starts. And then, the family members and the people experimenting and the staff in the house, there is all weirdness. And it's almost like, as odd as it is having the unicorn there, it almost fits because of the oddness of these people. You would think they're billionaires, whatever, to be maybe a little bit normal and so forth. But there's something just off about a couple of them or so forth. And for whatever reason. I think one of them was on drugs or whatever, but that's, whatever. So yeah, I think as the story goes, it becomes a, pretty easy story to follow. I guess one other thing I can kind of say, because I kind of want to mention a little bit of something else, of, more of the horror of it. I mean, the experimenting, whatever, is kind of sci-fi-ish in itself. But as far as the horror itself, let's, I guess, minor spoiler here, but I guess, the unicorn that they hit, I guess is the baby unicorn, if you want to call it that. And I guess there are two parent unicorns here who, at the end of the day, are not going to be very happy that kid tried to kill and now are experimenting on their baby unicorn, and are going to come for some vengeance here. So, and I only, I almost wanted to leave that out, but I figure, I have to kind of mention that because it kind of leads to the horror of the situation. Because, much of the horror to this point is the horror they're inflicting on the unicorn, not so much the unicorn on them. But then that doesn't, kind of makes it more of a sci-fi experimenting kind of horror. And I don't know, that may or may not be interesting to you guys. But once the two other unicorns come into play and decide that, hey, you've messed with our little family member here, now I'm going to mess with your family, and it's not going to end well, most likely, for you guys. So here we go. So you have two big ass angry unicorns with horns on top of their head, and they're going to do some damage, and they do. So, it becomes a fun time. Of these two unicorns then, just going crazy, killing, staff there, trying to kill the family members, even trying to kill the father and daughter here, and so forth. You do still get a little bit of that, as you would expect, that magical aspect from the unicorns, and that kind of stuff happens towards the end. I'm not going to say that I was all down for that kind of thing. I think, as certain things happen at the end of the film, you kind of know the direction it's going, and I'm just kind of like, oh, I know what's gonna happen. Oh, this is, whatever. I'm not really in for this. But by the time it gets there, these two unicorns have already ravished and just rampaged all over this house and killed a bunch of people. So you're like, okay, well, whatever. I can let that be. I can kind of expected that to happen there at the end. With what the kind of events that kind of play out, towards the end part. So, I can kind of forgive that because I just got to watch some unicorns, do some pretty harsh things to people. They were not happy. Let's just say these are not happy unicorns. Obviously, they had a reason, but they were not happy. These are not the ones you see, with sparkles and this glowing light around them. I think they were black, or they gray, or they were just dark, and they were going to do dark things, and that was fun. So, yeah, while there was a lot of oddness to the movie, and just a lot of oddness when it comes to them wanting to experiment and give this experiment, whatever they come up with, to the father, and then kind of what happens then, and I don't know, the whole family dynamic and that kind of aspect of the movie, and just the people are just being odd, altogether. That was weird. But for me, the highlight of this film was definitely the two unicorns, and the damage they did. I enjoyed it. I guess they didn't really make it a I guess if this was a true horror film, it is rated R. Maybe we would have seen, I guess, in a lot of the scenes when the unicorns appear, it's by that time it's kind of dark. So, they're dark, and the movie's dark at that point. So you don't really get, a whole lot of the blood and guts of the moment. It's just, you get more of the violence of the moment, with what they do. Which worked and which is fine. I mean, I would have liked to see the blood spilling out and so forth, and maybe a little bit more. But fine, I'm not going to complain hugely. I'm a little bit of a complaint, a preference. I would have preferred to have seen, maybe some of that. But still was completely happy with watching what these two unicorns did. So, the movie's an hour and 47 minutes, it says. So, while it might have taken some weirdness and so forth to kind of get there, but for me, that was the movie, was these two unicorns and when they killed people. Everything else was whatever. At the end of the day, for me, it didn't matter. I know, there's a lot of people that are fans of Jen and Paul, so if you like them, you probably like their performances. If you don't like them, maybe you didn't. I'm certainly not going to say maybe it's the better of either of their performances. I think like I said, that ending part becomes kind of predictable. They really wanted to sell the horror of it. Maybe it would have went a different direction, but it kind of more went the direction of a regular standard Hollywood film kind of ending. They leave a little bit at the end to your imagination, and so forth. So there's that. Could we bring back the unicorns to have them kill more people? I'm all for it. I think at the end of the day, they wanted to be a nice, happy family of unicorns, but that's not what happened. But I would be all for it. Maybe this is a chance for, and honestly, I haven't watched as much sci-fi as I used to, but sci-fi or somebody out there to do. I know the thing is not really doing as many of these creature movies anymore, but maybe we need to revisit doing the unicorn and just do more really bad unicorns doing bad things. Anyway, yeah, and as I sit here and talk, I keep looking at the poster, and if it didn't say "Death of a Unicorn" on there, I would swear it would say like "Death of a Dinosaur." I mean, I don't know. You guys check out the poster, and maybe when I put it up at the beginning, looks more like a dinosaur mouth to me than a unicorn. But whatever. Again, that kind of reflects not being a very nice unicorn. But anyway, again, that's beside the point. So it looks like it's done okay with the IMDb reviews, um, and so forth. Dark comedy, dark fantasy, monster horror comedy. Yeah, okay, yeah, you might mistake some of the awkwardness of the family as humor. Like I said, there's one that's on drugs, and he gets a little weird, a little more weird once they start running from the unicorns and so forth. But and actually, matter of fact, there is one at least decently bloody scene. I'll take that back. While I still wanted more blood, now I'm kind of having a flashback of one scene where we might have gotten a little bit of blood. So there is some there. Obviously, still would like more. I always want more, but whatever. But yeah, he does get a little weird there. But I guess some people might take that as horror. I mean, comedy. So if you do, you do. To me, they were just weird, and I was not crying when the unicorns decided to do what they did. Anyway, with that, I think I'm going to give it 3 pools of blood. This one is kind of. I don't remember if I put out a press release for it, but it just seemed to come and hit real quickly, and so forth. But I wasn't really sure, what to expect or if I would even see it or not, but I did. So with that, I'd give it 3 pools of blood, largely driven by the 2 unicorns that do some damage. The main point of this review, the 2 unicorns that did some damage. So 3 pools of blood out of 5 for this one. Horosquarereviews.blogspot.com is where you can find all of my reviews, written and videos, certainly tons of video reviews. So you can like and subscribe and do everything else that everybody wants you to do here on YouTube. If not, no worries, it is okay. I thank you for your time regardless. Twitter, Facebook information down below as well. Reach out to me there. Once you see this movie, your thoughts, and definitely in the comment section. Did this movie ruin unicorns for you? Do you like them magically and so forth? Or do you like them like I do now and be them dark and scary and just killing people left and right? Please let me know. So with that, I will catch you on the next review, horror fans.